fortunate today to have Dr. John Yanovitch. He's basically the guru of the philosophy department. He's been the guru here for 30 years, and he even has his followers who come and join him when he does a talk like this. And you've been doing this now, your Zen commandments, for how many years, John?
Oh, well over 30 years.
Right, and all over Long Island, right?
Yes.
So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you all for having me here today. Thank you, Michael, and Neil, thank you for being so gracious and you're accepting me to the Sangha today. What I want to do today is to give you a Dharma talk, and in giving you a Dharma talk, I want you to experience what I'm going to be saying to you. You know why? Because you think too much. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. I'm going to give us a couple of rules. I want you to remove all of your timepieces. Please take them off your wrists. I'm the only person who can have a timepiece on his wrist. Why is he doing that? Because every so often you're going to be tempted to do this. And if you're tempted to do this, you are not paying attention to what I'm saying, and you are losing the justness of this moment. We are filled with distractions. One of them usually occurs on your wrist. Okay? As I speak to you, I'm going to be using the personal pronoun you. When I use the personal pronoun you, please understand I'm also including John. But since I'm addressing you, I'm going to be talking to you. But I'm also talking to me about me. I tell my students that I give Dharma talks so that I can help myself to prevent myself from becoming a screw-up. So I'm going to be listening to me today. Are you going to be listening to me today?
Yes.
I certainly hope so. Okay. Another thing as well is when you listen to a Dharma talk, excuse me, you are to have no judgments. You are to make no judgments about what I'm saying. You are not to think about what I'm saying. You're not to have any expectations about what I'm going to be saying next. You are to empty your mind, so that hopefully through me the Buddha can plant a seed in your mind and plant a seed in my mind. But if you're filled with thoughts, if you're filled with expectations, if you're filled with judgments, and the judgments can be negative or they can be positive, I don't believe a word this turkey's saying. Who does he think he is? Buddha's second son? I mean, what's he doing here talking to us like this today? You're not listening to me. You're playing around with the monkey mind in your head. You are taking yourself out of, removing yourself from the justness of the given moment. Now your judgments may be positive. He is so bright. My God, I'm so happy that Michael invited him here. He is just absolutely incredible, and he knows so much, and boy, is he one red hot chili pepper too. Now all of that may be true. However, that's a judgment. And even though it's a positive judgment, it's taking you away from the justness, the immediacy of the present moment. So we have a couple of rules. No distractions from your watch or your wrist. I'm addressing you as you, but I'm also talking about John. Empty your mind. No judgments, no expectations. Just let it happen. Okay, now if it helps, you might want to close your eyes and get into yourself while I talk to you. That's, up to you. Several years ago, when my daughter and I and my wife were growing up together in Queens, in Woodside, I used to take my daughter, Melissa, when she was a little bit under 2 years of age, walking down through Woodside in our particular block. And we had a lot of Italian people living on that block. And if you know anything about Italian people, you will know that their gardens are absolutely incredible. They really know how to take care of their gardens. Well, Melissa and I used to have a wonderful time walking down the street and just looking at people's gardens and seeing what they were doing and so on and so forth. And I remember one day when we had stopped by the front of somebody's house, there was a rose sort of like sticking out from the fence, and Melissa had her little 2-year-old hands on that rose, and she was, I think, smelling it and touching it and maybe even eating it, I don't know. And at one point I said to her, from behind her, Melissa, that's a rose. And as soon as I said it, I could have ripped my tongue out of my mouth. She didn't ask me what it was. She was enjoying it in the present moment, and here I was, the Zen teacher, attempting to be a decent father at the time and give her perhaps a little bit of a lesson in botany. Here's this beautiful 2-year-old enjoying something in the present moment, in the justness of the moment, the purity of the moment, the given immediacy of the moment. Smelling it, touching it, maybe even it was speaking to her, I don't know. And her daddy did what all daddies do in, I guess, a situation like that. Try to teach your child something about the world around you. You know, when you take a look at a young child and you think about a young child's mind, up until about the age of 2 or 3, here's the young child's mind and here's the world. And the mind of the child and the world are one. There's no separation between the world and the mind of a child. But every so often, and we have to do it, it's appropriate, it has to be done, we begin to throw in a third hand. It's called concepts, conceptualizations, expectations, opinions, categorizations, whatever. And it's very proper and very appropriate to do that. Your child and my child, you and I cannot get around in the world unless we have a conceptual base, a conceptual framework. We have to know how to speak with people, know what's going on in the world, be able to compartmentalize and so on and so forth so that we can be very discriminative human beings. But children, when they start out like this, Freud used to say that a child is like, you know, you're just a drop in the ocean. And when you are weaned from your mother, you begin to separate from that all-encompassing, all-penetrating, beautiful experience of oneness with the world. Absolutely necessary so that we can get around in this world. Nobody's saying that this is evil or anything like that. But at that point in time, when I go back to that and I think about that and I think about my relationship with Melissa at that point in time, I should have really kept my mouth shut. And that's okay. It happens, all right? And that's why I'm here. You know, Shunryu Suzuki used to say to his people when he was talking to them in a Dharma talk, you're all perfect. You're absolutely, incredibly perfect. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with you. You could use a little bit of improvement, but you're perfect. So a Dharma talk is all about tweaking. You're a very, very special group of people because you are involved in a Sangha and you know that you are here every week for whatever your personal reasons are, but we're here today together, from my perspective, to do a little bit of tweaking. And I should have been tweaking when I was with Melissa. No, no, no. Don't say a word. She is involved in the present moment. Her senses are opened up. And what I'm doing is I'm throwing in a concept. I'm giving her a botany lesson that she did not ask for. And that's perfectly okay. I didn't do anything terrible. But this is the way that we are. This is the way that we are with our children. This is the way that we are with our students. This is the way that we are with ourselves. We think too much. And because we think too much, we are taken away from the enjoyment, and I use the word enjoyment advisedly here, from the bliss, the joy of the justness of the moment that is always being given to us in the present moment. We live up here, right above our brows. Everything we know, say, do, will, intend, and hope for is above our brows. You know, this is a beautiful gift that God has given us, but with the gift comes, you know, with the hope diamond comes the curse. The curse is that our thinking is taking us away from our understanding what the real world is. It is taking us away from our enjoyment of the real world. The human mind is a great gift. It's not evil. However, when you and I spend too much time up there, and that's why we do Zazen, at least one of the reasons we do Zazen, is so that we can get into the sensuous, so that we can get into the flow of the breath. You know? Thich Nhat Hanh says in one of his beautiful books, he says, when you breathe in peace. When you breathe out a smile. Every time you take in a breath, he says, you are taking in oxygen that has been given to you from just about every plant on the planet. You're taking in moisture that's been given to you from just about every ocean, every sea, every river on the planet. And when you take in a breath, you're taking in the nitrogen and the carbon dioxide of all human beings who are breathing with you on the planet. The problem is that when you and I take in a breath, we think too much about some other things, or we're thinking about the breath, and we are missing the point here, that we are being fed by the plants, we are being fed by the oceans, and we are being fed by every citizen of this planet. So you breathe in peace, he says, and you breathe out a smile. Or to go to what Albert Camus once said, he said, the feel of the breeze on my cheek, or the touch of a hand on my shoulder, there is truth in this. Camus didn't say that I'm thinking about the breeze on my cheek, or I'm thinking about the hand that's touching my shoulder. He is saying, I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something. Dogen, a great Zen master, once said, lose your mind so that you can come to your senses. Your problem and my problem is that we have not come to our senses. We think the same 60,000 thoughts that we thought yesterday. I don't know how anybody came up with that number, but that's something that I read. We think the same 60,000 thoughts today, or variations thereon, of thoughts that we thought yesterday. We're thinking those same 60,000 thoughts today, or variations on them, and we will think the same 60,000 thoughts tomorrow, or variations on those thoughts that we are thinking today. Lose your mind so that you can come to your senses. And when you come to your senses, you get involved in the justness of the moment. If you can put away your concepts, if you can put away your conceptualizations, if you can stop those judgments. Another great Zen master once said, I believe it was Hakuin, give up all of your opinions. Don't call something good and don't call something bad. Just stay open for the truth. See, when you have an opinion, and everybody has an opinion, when you have an opinion and you say, oh, gee, that's a good thing, then you want more of that. That's an attachment. You want to stay with that and keep more of that in your life. Or when you say, oh, that's very bad, I don't like that, keep it away from me, then that's an attachment too. You want to push it away, push it away. So those things that you're attached to, either positively or negatively, they control you. And those attachments are getting in the way of your really experiencing the reality of the world as it is given to you. So, instead of this, the child being one with the cosmos or one with the universe in that kind of oceanic feeling that Freud talked about, we've thrown in so much in the middle of that so that we're separated from it. You no longer experience reality. You experience what you think about reality. You experience your thoughts about reality. You experience your opinions about reality. You experience your conceptualizations about reality. You experience your categories about reality. And to the degree that you do not experience reality, to the degree that you do not reality test, I am not a clinician, and I use the word with a small p, you are psychotic. You don't have to have read the DSM, number 5 now. They'll tell you what psychosis is, but one of the definitions of psychosis, as I've read it and understood it over the years, is that a person who is psychotic is a person who does not reality test. Now, if you take that and expand that and extend that to our experience of Zazen and our experience of living in the moment, well, Zazen is a very, very potent, powerful way to become sane again. It's a very potent, very powerful way to open up one's senses. You see, if you have one good ear, you can hear. One good ear is all you need to be able to hear what somebody's saying, but nobody listens. In fact, we have such a problem with listening that we actually pay people to listen to us. They're called therapists or psychiatrists or counselors. Nobody listens. We can hear. That's great. But what Dogen was saying is, give up your mind, lose your mind so that you can come to your senses. Whom do you know who truly, truly listens? I was talking with a class of mine last week, and I said, you know, it takes a great deal of work to listen. It's easy to hear. But when you hear, you're distracted. When you hear, other things are on your mind. I tell my students when I'm standing in front of you or some other teacher is standing in front of you, you're all taking notes. You all become secretaries. Amanuenses, you know. You become Plato to Socrates. You hear what I'm saying, or you hear what another teacher is saying, and then maybe a week before the final exam, you go home and you just sort of like memorize it all, read all of your notes, and so on and so forth. If you didn't take notes in class, and I understand that there are classes where notes should be taken, maybe you have to know some kind of figures or something like that. If you simply sat there with the pencil in your hand or put it aside and just focused on what the teacher was saying and really gave yourself to opening up that sense, you'd probably do very, very well in that class. So one of the ways to get into the justness of the moment, one of the ways to experience the givenness of the present moment, is to stop hearing and to start listening. And that takes work. That takes work. And nobody wants to do that work. Zen is a very, very hard discipline. If you have one eye, you can see, but nobody looks. Nobody looks. I was in San Diego several years ago with my wife. We were walking down the street, and I passed by an African-American man who was sitting on a large piece of cardboard just over in the corner as we were walking down the street, and he had his hand out. Wasn't saying anything, he just wanted some money. I suspect a lot of people might have seen him. Maybe some people don't even see a person like that. But I stopped and I went back because there was something incredible about him. I noticed something in his eyes. I went back and I got down on his level. You've got to get down on the level of the experience in order to experience it. Stop standing above your experiences and objectifying them and being so darn analytical about them. Get down there and enjoy them. That's the justness of the moment. I got down on my hands and knees and went over to him. And I looked into his eyes and I said, you have absolutely incredibly blue eyes. And he looked back at me and he said, thanks, bro. And we talked, for about a minute or so, and I gave him some money. And I said, what's your name? I think his name was Paul. I told him my name is John. I said, will you pray for me, Paul? He said, sure, I will, bro. You got it. And I said, I'll pray for you, Paul. And we shook hands, and I got up and I walked away. What I would have missed had I not looked at him. If I just seen him and had a judgment about him. Oh, another bum in the street. Why do you think the present moment is called the present? Because it is a present. It's a gift. Now, if you believe in God, it's a present from God. It's a present from Buddha. It's a present from the universe. It's a present from the Great Spirit. Fill in the blanks. And your problem is that you keep turning your back on it. You keep hearing it, and you keep seeing it. I walked a few more feet down that street, and I sat at a table, outdoor table from Starbucks. There was one man sitting at another table, a couple of tables away from me. Just sat there, wanted to enjoy the sun. He was having coffee. He started to talk to me about his situation. I didn't say anything to him. He started to talk to me. He had just gotten divorced, paying lots of alimony and child support to his wife and children. And he said, as long as I have enough money just to be able to come here every day and have a coffee at Starbucks. Now, when I go to Starbucks and I get a cup of tea, it's a third mortgage for me to have a cup of tea at Starbucks. But he started to tell me the story of his life. When you open up your senses, you get into the justness and the givenness of this absolutely incredible gift that's being given to you with every breath that you take. Every breath that you take. You don't taste, you taste, but you don't savor. You go to lunch and do you really savor what you're eating? You don't take in the essence, you just smell something. And shame on us. We touch, but we don't feel. To be in the present moment is an absolutely incredible gift. Stop turning your back on it. Jesus said something incredible to his disciples in the New Testament. They came up to him one day and they were talking with him and they said to him, "Good rabbi, good master, the people want to know who you are. Some say that you are John the Baptist. Some say that you are Ezekiel, the prophet, come back to earth. They want to know who you are." Here's Jesus now talking to his disciples and he says to them, "Don't call me good. Do not call me good. My Father in heaven is good. Don't call me good." So right away he's telling them, you're coming to me, don't use any conceptualizations, get rid of your opinions, don't call me good. These people are calling me John the Baptist or they're calling me Ezekiel, some more opinions. Who do you say I am? Who do you say that I am? It comes back to you. It comes back to your clearing your mind, getting rid of expectations. By the way, expectations are simply resentments waiting to happen. Get rid of all of your expectations. Clear your mind of expectations, clear your mind of opinions, clear your mind of thoughts and conceptualizations. And then perhaps you've got a shot at tweaking a little bit here of living in the present moment. You keep living in the past and you keep living in the future. You're missing the present, the justness, the givenness, the immediacy, the purity of breathing in what the oceans are giving you, breathing in what the plants are giving you, breathing in what your fellow citizens are giving you, says Thich Nhat Hanh, and you turn your back on it all because you're caught up here with the 3-pound baby up there. The curse that comes with the Hope Diamond. You think too much and you feel and sense too little. That's why when students ask me when they want to take my course, Zen and Now, I teach it in the summer, you're all invited to come and take it. Dr. Yanovitch, what is Zen all about? And I tell them Zen is about having the mind of a child, cultivating the mind of a child, a very young child, in the body of an adult. Because when you cultivate the mind of a very young child, you come back to this. You're one with your experiences. You become sane again. What did Jesus say? To get into the kingdom of heaven, you have to become like a child again. Only children get into the kingdom of heaven. What a wonderful statement. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. And I suspect, I hope, at least for me, when I come to Sangha, I'm coming back to sitting on the floor, on a cushion, shoes off, just taking it easy and breathing. That's a happy childhood. Letting everything drop off you. When you know something, you take something in. When you understand something, you learn how to deal with what you've taken in. But when you become wise, you give it all up. You become empty. And when you become empty, you can be filled. And what you're filled with is the justness, the immediacy, the presence, the purity of the given moment. That's all we have. That's really all we have. C.S. Lewis, in his incredible book, and I'll end with this, the Screwtape Letters. Screwtape is having a conversation with Wormwood, one of his assistants, and he says, God knows, when he's dealing with his children, with us, that the present moment is the only place where they can experience what eternity is all about. You're even giving up the opportunity to have a glimpse into eternity. Eternity is nothing but the now. No past, no future in heaven. If you want to live in heaven, you've got to live in the now. If you're living only up here, maybe you're living in purgatory or hell. I don't know. Only you know that about your thoughts. But to live in the present moment with a clear mind, with open senses, the five senses functioning optimally, is to live in heaven. You don't have to die to go to heaven. You get it right now when you live in the justness of the moment.
Does anyone want to share an observation with John?
I'll start. John, you said we have to give up our concepts, right? And, there are those who say we really can't give up our concepts. All we can do is be mindful of. That's conceptualization. That's abstracting me from experience. Is that what you mean?
You and I know, and so do other people here, that our concepts are with us. They've been given to us, and we need them to get around in the world. But one of the great sages in the yoga tradition said, if you want to control your cow, give her freedom. Let her go wherever she wants. Just observe her. So we're not here to get rid of concepts. We're here to observe them. And when we observe them, they begin to lose their power to control us. If we give up our concepts, we can't get around in this world. We can't even have a conversation with somebody else, or we can't understand what somebody else is saying. The important thing here about concepts and conceptualizations, Mike, is not that they're evil. They really are very good in many ways when we use them appropriately. The point is not to obsess about them and to know when to use them, not to allow them to interfere in any kind of experience that we might be having, that kind of thing. Let your cow have her freedom. Just observe her. And as you observe her, you see how she works. And you see how you can use her. And she's still your cow, but you have control over her. Same thing with the concept. Observe your thought patterns. That's what we're taught to do in Zazen, to observe our thoughts, to observe our feelings, and just not to hang on to them, to let them pass by us. And so you can't really get rid of anything that you've been given. It's all there in your memory banks. The point is, how do you use it? What attention do you pay to it? When can you learn how not to pay attention to it? That's important, I think. And that helps us to be very discriminative in terms of what's going on up here. Not an easy thing, tweaking all the time.
What if we have a bull?
What if we have a what?
A bull.
A bull? Lots of luck. Give him a very strong fence, but observe him too. Anybody else?
I was talking to Roshi the other day, Roshi, about something he had said that moved me a long time ago. And in a session he was talking about, he was reading poetry, which he likes to do. And he made an offhand comment between one moment and another, and he said, when I read that poet, I feel like I'm walking into a room with no walls. And I was telling Roshi that I went with him as he spoke into that room as he removed the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment of nothing was gorgeous.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And there's nothing
Yes.
and everything.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about here.
I remember reading about somebody who had an experience with a Zen master, and he said when he was with the Zen master, the master said very, very little, if anything, to him. But he said when he looked into his eyes, he could see openness, space, no judgment, nothing, just this clear openness moving way back. And I suspect it might be like that room with no walls, that there's this acceptance, there's this openness, there's this non-judgmental presencing to another human being, which is a wonderful experience. A wonderful experience.
That is why, by the way, when we leave the Zendo, or all the procedures we do here, we leave as a string of pearls, we come back in, it's all to have zero distraction, no distraction, to stay in our practice, to sit right down again, we're in our practice, we walk, we feel the ground in our feet, it takes our attention goes there, we're in the practice, no distraction, so we can grow with this.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think so much of becoming a grown-up human being is to begin to allow things to drop off you. When we're very young, we take a lot of stuff on. As you get older and you begin to move around in the world, I think it's a good idea to start to let things go. That is to say, you still can approach them and have them within your purview, but don't hang on to them. Everything is going to be taken away from you eventually. Why not give up the rooms in the wall? Or the walls in the room, excuse me. Why not give up the walls in the room? Why not give up the judgments? You can always get them back if you need them. Mike is right. But let them go and see what happens when you clear out the attic. And all of that space opens up inside of you. How light you begin to feel. Wings. You know, you start to move. Because is it or is it not true? For some of us anyway, our thoughts are weighing us down. Our opinions, read the newspaper, are oftentimes leading to the death of innocent human beings out there. Let it go. And come to emptiness. I tell my students the most beautiful thing for me about the Zen garden, you know the Zen garden, is that its emptiness is a source of fullness. When you are empty, everything can be given to you. When you're too full, nothing gets in. Let it go. Let the walls of the room come down, to go back to what Neil said before. And then you can enjoy the justness of the moment. And become a child again. Isn't that wonderful? It's never too late to have a happy childhood. Anybody else?
I appreciate your passion. My practice gets stale. Nice infusion of passion.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for having me here today. Again, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Neil, for being so gracious. And thank you all for being here. We're all on this together. Happy Sangha-ing.